Hello, my name's Streffen Jam of Streffen Jam Photography, and today I'm going to talk to you about apertures and the effect that different sized apertures have on a photograph that you're going to take. So in the first episode you may have seen where I showed you how camera obscura, how light projected through a hole in a box projects an image onto a screen, and how that's the essence of all cameras, including your phone. And you may have seen this piece of paper floating around because it was attached to the camera at one point, and this is what's meant by apertures. They're holes, and they're different sized holes. And I've got a different bit of equipment that's going to be better to demonstrate this with. This is an aperture out of a disused enlarger, and it's how the apertures work in cameras. So these overlapping sheets of steel are moved by turning the bezel. So this is a small aperture, and this is a large aperture. Now the effects that this has on taking a photograph is that a large aperture lets lots and lots of light in, which can be a good thing, but the other thing about all that light going in is it narrows the field of focus that is going to happen to your photograph. So a large aperture like this means that there's a very narrow point of that photograph that's going to be in focus, which is perfect for portraits. When we look at things and when we look at each other, we focus on a very narrow point in any field of view, and when we're looking at people in particular, we look into their eyes. So a portrait photographer will use a large aperture, will focus on the point of light in an eye, and it makes that portrait look really good because the eyes are nice and sharp, and everything in front and behind is a little bit blurry, which is flattering in a portrait, which is what you want. The opposite is true of a narrow aperture, which increases the depth of field, so that everything in a photograph with a tiny little aperture like that is going to be in focus. So if I was photographing a landscape and I had a narrow aperture, the fence, the sheep, the field and the mountain are all going to be kind of more or less in focus, which is kind of what you want in a landscape. There's some more details about these apertures that I want to explain. So a small aperture has a large number, and that's because these apertures are a ratio of the distance of the lens from the camera. So a small aperture has a large number, and the way to remember it is a large number is large depth of field. So to further illustrate the effect that different size apertures have on a photograph, I've created a little still life here. I've got a camera positioned, and I'm going to take you through the f-stops on this camera. And on this camera, it's a bezel on the lens that adjusts the aperture. On digital cameras, it's quite often just a number, and it will have an F in front of it, so you'll know what it's to, so you'll know which is the number related to the aperture change. And I've taken a sequence of shots. And the first shot I've taken is with a large aperture, and on this camera it's f2, and it's a portrait of the moose's antlers. And as I click through the different apertures, the field of focus adjusts, and you'll notice it broadens. So as I take you through these different apertures, so f2.8, f4, f5.6, f8, f11 and f16. And you'll see in the photograph that's taken with f16 that you can see the detail on the pattern on this piece of pottery. You can see the orange clearly. You can read the lettering on the camera, whereas in the first wide aperture, all of that stuff is blurred, and only the moose's antlers are in focus.
And that, in a nutshell, is how you manage the depth of field or depth of focus in your photographs, using controlling the aperture, the size of the aperture. I hope you've enjoyed watching this and you've learned something useful, and look out for more tutorials. I'll be covering shutter speeds next. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.